in to The Real Tea with T3. I'm your host, Tisha Harris, and I'm the team leader of Texas Trio Team. And today we're going to have somebody that has a big impact inside of our community tell you who they are and what they do. So before, who are you and what keeps you busy?
I am Michelle Duty. I'm a team member and realtor.
So over to you. This is your time to shine. Who are you and what keeps you busy these days?
My name is Shawn Koonce, and I get to be the executive director for the Boys and Girls Club of Washington County. So that's one of the things that keeps me pretty busy. And I'm a dad, and I'm a husband, and so I'm a girl dad, and so that's all the time. Pretty busy, but I love it.
So what got you interested in diving into such a big, impactful, position in Washington County? Because working with kids is such a meaningful job.
It is. Well, and let me just say this. I have the best job in Washington County, hands down. But I'll tell you what it is. It goes back almost 40 years where teachers leaned into my life and mentors and people said, hey, I think you have something more in you. Let me pull it out. Your parents can say certain things, which is great and encouraging, uplift you. But when it has someone from the outside and that leans in and says, hey, I think you can do this, or they challenge you, I don't think you should be doing that. And so I think that I think of Coach Williamson, my 7th and 8th grade, coach who just, challenged us to think and to be part of something great. But then also just friends and finding safe spaces where we had friends. We always had that. And I realize today that a lot of kids don't. And so that kind of set my trajectory. And so I worked in faith-based churches and otherwise with youth work, and then overseas working with youth. The whole idea was the potential of what can be, but also the actuality of what's happening right now. So not just waiting for them to turn 30 and change the world, but do it at 16. And whenever you galvanize young people and give them permission, when you put your foot in the door and say, okay, hey guys, I'm a little bit further down the road, give access, but also help them to dream and be a part of it. They don't need to be told what to do. They need to be given permission to think about what they want to do. And so that just has led me on a journey. And at one point, I tried to get away from it a little bit. Thought I want to do something else, but it just pulls you back. And especially with our families and when you start to see our kids, someone asks, what's the best part of working with young people? And it's always 10 years later when they walk back in, like we're just talking about, raising kids, and you never know in the moment what can happen. And it's interesting. I was like, I've never had a kid come back and say, Shawn, you said this really deep thing ever. But it's the relationships that were around it. And I think that's really neat. They come back in and they're living a great life. They're loving their family. They're doing something positive in the world. They're pursuing their faith, or they're just walking out what they're meant to be. That's a beautiful thing, especially the underdogs. And I love the underdogs. Mm-hmm. And so here in Washington County, we had moved here. I was working with a nonprofit that served families living with disabilities. So I joined the board of the Boys and Girls Club because I really have a heart making sure that all kids have access and they have the ability to be able to have community. And especially in rural communities, that's very hard. And so there was an opportunity to come on as executive director and saw the opportunity of what's happening already in Washington County, mm-hmm. and got to meet the kids, met the families, and very exciting challenge, but also incredible opportunity going forward.
So you said that you had somebody that was a coach in your life. Do you feel that just having a coach and a mentor is something that can make such a huge impact for someone, or just is it someone that is a role model overall that can really be the beacon for these kids?
It's a good question, because I think a lot of times people say, well, I don't have all the time in the world, whatever. But I go back to when I was 14, and I went with my dad to an event, and he was like an adjunct professor at a college. And he came in, and I'd say, hey, why don't you go to this conference with me? So I went, and I'm just there to hang out because the food and some of my friends were going to be there. And a gentleman walked up to me. His name was Dr. Patterson, who I only knew by reputation. He was a history professor, just really brilliant guy. And he walked up and he goes, you're Herb Koonce's son, which I'm still proud to say I am Herb Koonce's son. I said, yes, I am. He goes, you're Shawn. I said, yes, sir. He said, you're really going to do something, aren't you? Now, I don't know why he said that. It didn't make sense. He didn't really know me that well. I said, I hope so. He goes, you will. And he walked off. That's the longest conversation I've ever had with that man. So that 10, 15-second window, I'm sitting here, 39 years later, and I remember it. Why? Because someone spoke something into my life that I hoped was true, but I needed someone else to see it as well. And it didn't matter what anybody else said or otherwise. That guy believed in me. So when you ask, is it, a person who's consistent? That's great. Someone who sticks with the kids, someone who walks with them, whether it's a parent or a family member or a community member, a coach. That's why coaches have such great impact, because they challenge the kid and they help them reach the pinnacle, or they walk through with them through failure. And they say, hey, that didn't kill you, did it? But sometimes it's just believing in someone. We all want to be believed in.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to be thought of, hey, you could do something beyond yourself. Because we live in a world that cuts us down so quickly, whether it be via social media or comparison trap. And so I think it's a both and, but I think it's also a community that believes in its kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at them and say, hey, you're not just here as a product of your parents, which you are, but you're here as a part of a community that we need, that is vital. And when we begin to speak that truth, it leans in where they got to be accountability and have accountability and be responsible, really, to stepping into that role. If you lowball people for so long, they're gonna live down to it. Well, let's raise it. And I think that's always been the greatest part of my life, because I think even sitting in my 50s, I still need people to say, hey, Shawn, I think you could do this better, or the challenge or the encouragement. We all need it. I think as we get older, sometimes we don't think we do, but those coaches, those mentors are incredibly, incredibly vital. So whether it's 15 seconds or 15 months or 15 years, just leaning into people to care about them is so important.
Agreed.
And what you said a minute ago, like of all the incredible things that you just laid out, is one thing that stuck with me that you just said was that with them, you're walking with them through it versus telling them what to do, advising and instructing. Like it's different to go through the trenches with somebody.
Well, tell a 12-year-old girl to get over it because some boy broke her heart. That doesn't help her, because that's her world right then. Telling a 14-year-old boy because he didn't make the team, hey, don't worry about it, you'll be okay. That doesn't help it. But in perspective, we know overall they're going to be all right. But sitting with them and being with them, saying, okay, what do we got to do to get better? Okay, that really hurts. I'm so sorry that happened. Let's talk about it. Just having that outlet, and it kind of, it's when you speak things out, then they lose their power. And when you begin to invite, just kind of truth to invade that is incredibly important. And so having maturity and perspective, hopefully as adults, we can lean back in with our kids and say, okay, that's a big deal, because it's their world then. And so walking with them through that and kind of being that beacon, that touch point. I got to point out to our staff this summer, I said, hey, you ever wonder why that kid is always at your leg for about 5 seconds? Like, yeah, you're safe. And I said, just watch tomorrow. And so we have our gymnasium, and kids would come in and they'd be out playing, but they'd come back, especially our younger ones, and they'd find that staff who they're safe with. And they'd just touch the hand, touch their leg, and sometimes not even words, look up at them. And if our staff looked down at them, they'd go back to play. They were safe. And we all want to be safe. We all want to know that it's going to be all right, even when it feels crazy. And so walking with people, sometimes, it's Psalm 23, right? It's one of those, we know, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you're with me, right? So we know this. Well, just not being alone is a big deal. And there's a phrase, I forget who coined it. Sometimes we live lives of quiet desperation and just scared that we're going to be alone, scared that we can't make it. Having one other person say we're going to be okay, it's a pretty big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you walked into the best job in Washington County,
Hands down.
versus like what it was versus the impacts you've made today, what are the pivotal moments that you've ingested just from stepping into the role?
Say this, I don't think I've done that much, truthfully.
Just from the organization overall.
Or organizationally, I think we have some great people that serve our kids each and every day. And I think that it's a continuation. We're 30 years old this year. And so a continuation of people who believed in it, invested in it, and spent a lot of time. But our kids today are very different than they were 30 years ago. So their needs are very different. And so I think every few years you have to look in and say, okay, what do we need to do to meet the needs of our community today?
Mm-hmm.
And what do they want? Not just a program to get a grant, or not just a program because you're checking a box, but is this truly making an impact. We have a program that starts in a couple weeks called Smart Moves. It's specifically for kids helping with emotional health and awareness and behavior. Rural kids are at extreme vulnerability for mental health crisis right now. A lot of times it's because isolation, and also there's not services to serve them. So trying to be very intentional that way, but we have great parents who lean in and say, hey, here's what we think you should do. So as we're looking towards the future, what we want to do is really be more community-minded, focused, and invested with a lot of collaboration. And so we're like I said, we're building off of what so many people have done before, and hopefully we're going to continue that well. And also we'll see those kids in 10 years continue the same, the exact same path for us. So I got a couple kids right now. I've already challenged, said, I want you to take my job. And I got one is she's trying. She is trying. So, which is great. That's what I want.
So I know, like, when my kids go to Brenham schools. And so I know, like, as it gets closer to summer, like, you guys have the avenue for them to have camps and, like, after school care, especially, but even like the things that are over the summer, like, it fills up like incredibly quickly. What is it that brings people to you, to the Boys and Girls Club to be filled up so quickly, so rapidly, and to, do it year over year?
Hmm. Well, I would say this. That's one of the things I'm sad about. I'd love to double our numbers. I don't know how to do that yet, but you have a capacity issue, right? Because for every one kid that we have show up, we have 3 that don't get in.
Mm.
And so, and eventually people just get frustrated. And so that becomes a big problem, especially when you have sibling groups and otherwise. So we are actively right now seeking ways that we can multiply the ability for kids to come, whether it's streams or otherwise. I think we meet a need. I think we meet a need for, especially families that, if it's a single parent family, it's about 40% of our kids, or where they're able to work more and otherwise. We're safe. We highly, highly value safety for our kids. We make sure that all of our staff are trained CPR, first aid, but also in protection of youth, and we do annual safety assessments. And so when a parent drops their child off there, my 2 go. And I need to know that it's a safe place for them as well. And we value that. And like I said, our people are amazing, and they love these kids. And whenever we have new folks who show up, I say, get ready. About 3 weeks, you're going to be walking through HEB, and there's going to be a kid come running at you, and you know their face, but you cannot remember their name, but they're going to know your name, and they're going to yell at running down that frozen food aisle. And they look at me, and sure enough, they come back. It happened, Shawn. Why? Because those kids are safe and they're cared for. And I think it's also very reasonable. We have a great partner with Brenham Game Changers here in town, doing great work. And so they provide scholarships, partial scholarships, and otherwise. So we will never turn away a child from the Boys and Girls Club because of money. That will never happen, as long as I'm here at least. And
So how do y'all, is it first come, first served basis, or is there some criteria?
yeah, it is first come, first serve.
Okay.
And now we can only take so many, kindergarten through first grade and third. So we try to make it fair across the board, but we do reserve about 30% of our spots consistently for folks who may be economically disadvantaged or they need some assistance in some way, because that's why it's one of the biggest reasons why we're here. And so we want to, and the first come, first serve is hard because, so we've tried to make the sign up time so people can do it before work or on lunch break. But the challenge is in our poor team, because I'm like, can we just get one more? I get a call and I'm like,
Are you sure?
hold spots, military, and veterans, really, and first responders. We kind of have a high priority because we know what their life's like. But I want every kid to be there. I'm not gonna lie, I would love it, and so it's why we're seeking to expand programs beyond after school care.
So you said a word a few times, the word safe for these kids.
Yep.
Like, walk us through, like, what that looks like for kiddos coming into your facility.
And when they get met at the door, there's a sign above it that says you belong here. So no matter what, I don't care who you are, what you look like, where you come from, who your mama is, who your daddy is, even if you don't know either one of them, you belong when you walk in that door. There's no, you mentioned criteria for selection. And so it's first come, first serve, but we don't have criteria for loving our kids. When you can walk into a place and know that I'm not only going to be loved, I'm going to have fun and I'm going to be safe. When we talk about, there's a lot of bullying and things that happen in the world, but we have a 0 tolerance policy for that. We don't have electronics, which is great. The schools are now mimicking that as well. And our kids are free. The building is safe. We constantly walking in buildings, making sure that they're safe, and otherwise, from outside threat, our staff we continually are monitoring, but also running through our drills for those things that potentially could happen. Very much like the schools. But I think the other part is this: safety, physical safety is good, emotional safety is important, but the safety to start dreaming, to start thinking without being laughed at. And can I give you a quick story?
Please.
Okay, so we got rock stars all over, and we did at the end of the summer this year, end of our 8 weeks. I was talking with our team. They're like, our kids are really talented. Like, yeah, let's do a talent show. So we did it, and we signed it. We started signing up. Well, the usual suspects showed up, which I knew they were going to come, which is great. I love it because they consistently show out. And I looked through the list. I'm like, oh yeah, that's good. But then the third or fourth person got up, and I looked at our director of operations and said, Corey, is this okay? Because there's a young lady who historically had been very, very insular, very shy, did not want to be out in front of people, was just very introverted. Her speech was a challenge for her sometimes. And I watched her go out, walked out into the middle of the floor, took a microphone in her hand, and sang an entire solo by herself. I literally sat back and I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Why did she do that? Because no one was going to laugh. No one was going to make fun of her. And actually, halfway through, everybody just starts applauding for her. Why? Because she mattered. She's part of us. She's one of us. If you come by the club right now, you see a giant one outside. It says one club, one team, one future. And when that kiddo got out there, and I'm telling you, hopefully I didn't show it too much on my face. I'm like, look at you. And at the end, we just jumped up, and her face, let me just tell you, 3 weeks later when she came back in for after school, confidence, stood up, and I looked at her, I said, you're going to be okay. She goes, all right. Her mom told me her backstory, and they don't have a time span because of some challenge she has with her health. But I'm like, if she's safe at the club and she's excited when she walks in and she feels confident as a young woman in this world, let's go. So that's the kind of safety I want our kids to dream. And
I'm not crying. You're crying.
no, well, no, believe me, it had me in that moment. And because I'm like, man, what is this going to do for her? Is this her Dr. Patterson moment?
Yeah.
Where 115 kids are cheering and calling out her name? Maybe she'll carry that with the rest of her life. And so no matter what she thinks and other people say, she knows she had that moment. So we want to give that moment to every kid. And I want our littles to our bigs, that when they walk in, I'm going to be all right. And I can say things and do things. And I can ask questions here that maybe I can't ask elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that's it.
That's incredible. And
Yeah.
I mean, even you just sharing that, I know that like there's so many other people that are so introverted and just don't want to share who they really are because of the judgment or the criticism. And I want to ask, I mean, the world that we grew up in, or even just over the past 10 years has changed so much for these kids. And I feel like there's so much pressure on them, especially with phones, social media, like you had said earlier. So, I mean, just from what you're experiencing and every day, what are some tips that you could give to parents or guardians of these kids that because they're living that life and it's right in front of them, just like you said, we're not with them 24 hours a day. So what do you have to say about that?
Bobby Boucher's mom said foosball is the devil. Social media is the devil.
Mm-hmm.
It started off as a really neat thing, and we use social media. I would say this: there's a lot of, and I got a 12-year-old, so I'm in the mix of this. I got a 6-year-old. Delay, as long as possible. Any access to social media.
Yeah.
They're going to get it, no matter what. I mean, again, as we said, there's a no electronics policy at the club. So we don't have phones there. And
the good thing is Texas schools have cracked down on that
made
as well.
it so much easier for us. So I haven't had to confiscate one phone yet. So that's great. And we always give them back, of course. But delay. Your kid's not going to be the weird one. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, there are studies that were done. If a kid was asked, "Hey, if I took away your phone for a day, how would you do?" I don't want that. What if I took away your phone and all your friends' phones? Well, it changed dramatically, like 80 something percent said, yeah, I'd do that
Hmm.
because of the pressure of it. So that delay, but also know what they're in on. Spying on your kids, it's not spying on your kids. It's actually knowing what's going on with your kids. And so, yes, they have right to privacy on a certain level, but the problem is this: is they're going to hide things that they're embarrassed of,
Hmm.
and if their friends say or do things, man, make sure you know that password to that phone. Otherwise, if you choose to do that, and I would, I can't tell everybody how to do it, but um, if nothing in the rooms because at night is when a lot of it happens.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just be honest with it. I did that with my kids. They literally have lost that choices have consequences, and they lost their phones about a month ago. First off, on a communication level with them, on their like, it's definitely communication, like, they've opened up a lot more to
Sure,
me because
engaged.
they're
Mm.
engaged, and, so anyways, but it was interesting that I went to our phone carrier and I was like then there's times that I'm like, I worry because they do after school activities, I'm like, "Where are they? I just wanna know."
Sure.
So, I mean, it was interesting just like, I think as parents or leaders in our community, I went to the phone provider and they didn't even know how to lock down the phone. It was like one girl that worked there that was like, "I'll do it."
Mm.
It's just like we as parents aren't informed enough that you
Yes,
can limit like, what they're accessible to.
Yeah.
you can, and I'll be honest, it's easy as a YouTube search,
True.
and just saying, or even ChatGPT, one of my best friends, saying, "How do I lock this down?" And there's also the beginner phones. There's
Mhm.
one they're almost like a brick. I mean, but
Mhm.
they can call you, they can text you, but no one's sending them things, no one's doing things. But I'll say this too: even if you have your child and everybody's squared away, it doesn't mean that all their friends are.
Mhm.
And so, talking with our kids of like, hey, here's appropriate, and this is why it's hurtful. Not just don't do this. Here's why, and then having that openness where they can actually come and sit. The circle of trust where they can sit down no matter what they say. We listen and we don't judge. Okay, whatever you say right here, you're not going to get in trouble,
Mhm.
and they're able to share that is a big deal. And I
Mhm.
think especially our younger ones have a hard time articulating what they've seen or what they've heard or what they've been experienced to. But if you have another child who has older siblings or cousins, or just as the home situation is not as regulated, listen, I got 6-year-olds, that we've come across that are watching horror films that I don't like horror films, but that would just shock me. I'm like, how do you know that? Oh, I've watched it. So that right there, they're talking about that, and then they're bringing it in. So having that dialogue, because we can't isolate those kids, and we can't push them. We can't say, hey, as soon as it becomes you can't do it, they're going to want to do it. And so explaining why good choices. So we always talk about good choice versus bad choice, and then even like I said on social media, if they get an account, be on it too, and but also them understanding that what they see there is not real. That's the best. That's the highlight. That's the thing that person wants everybody else to see. And with AI now, it's all fake.
Mhm.
And so they're not. That's not reality. And so don't compare. The comparison trap is deadly
For sure.
for all of us.
I would go one step even further,
Sure.
just in my own experience, is not only being open with your own children, but have an environment where their friends
Mm,
feel safe
huge.
in your home,
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
my house was the one where all the friends would come.
Mm-hmm.
And, as they got older, I was, an adult figure that they felt safe
Mm-hmm.
talking to about difficult, situations.
Huge.
So yeah, I would just take it one step further, not just,
Great.
know their friends, know their,
Mm.
so anyways, that's what I was going to say.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
Make your house a place to hang out at. It'll be
exactly.
messy, but you'll be in the know. That's a great
Exactly.
thought.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
100%.
I cut you off. Sorry about that.
No, no, not at all. The other thing I was going to ask was I know that you're limited as far as you were explaining that you have employees who run Boys and Girls Club, but you also have volunteers. So uh, what's the ratio? How many, for instance, if you had one volunteer join, how many spots does that open up for Boys and Girls Club on a, particular?
Sure. So at the club, we have a 1 to 20 ratio that we're always maintain, but our goal is 1 to 15. And so if we're able to, my goal is 20 volunteers,
Mhm.
20 active volunteers, whether it's 5, 10 a week or whatever it is, but regular active volunteers that are coming in. It does a couple things for us. First of all, our homework and our academics, where they're able to have, I sat in a room the other day with 3 other of our team, and we had 15 kids. So we're trying to work it out, but having people to do that, it allows our kids to get that done, get it done quicker. But it also opens up with our electives, where they're able to go in, especially with the art and with our leadership and our sports, they're able to add value into that as well. So it would open up. If you had 2 volunteers that are regular, you could open up probably another 5 spots, and then it continues to increase from there. We're also in Burton as well, and so our heart is to how do we grow that out where we have the volunteers who are coming, because everybody comes with a unique skill set, right? They have something they bring to the table. So when a volunteer shows up, you know what, actually, I can do that really good. I look at your beautiful office and you said, you made this happen. Well, that's a skill. A volunteer coming and say, hey, I could work in the office. I could free these guys up to go do that. So it's all levels. Sometimes it's forward facing. Sometimes it's behind the scenes. But it definitely frees up our people. But what it also does, because we have financial limitations of what we can actually put out there. If I could add 5 more people tomorrow, it would be a game changer for us.
That's amazing.
Yep.
So what does volunteering hours wise look like if you have somebody who says, I want to volunteer?
It can look like a lot of things. If it's forward facing, we're there from our kids start arriving about 3:25, and then they leave at 6. That's during the weekdays. And then now we're working on after hours, 6 to 8 for older kids, doing some gym nights. So those are available as well. If it's behind the scenes, can be anytime from 8 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I come, set up, build things out, help make the rooms look better, work on, helping out with the office administration or otherwise. I haven't turned down a volunteer yet. Even on the weekends, we have this grand idea of a retired person's maintenance team come in and help us to do things behind the scenes to make things go forward. We can use volunteers on almost any level, from our snack, handing that out, to our, like I said, our academics or our sports, or just sitting down with a kid and saying, how you doing, man? It's a huge thing.
Okay.
So it would, not only would it open it up, but it also frees up finances that we can use. 77 cents of every dollar that is given to our Boys and Girls Club Washington County goes towards our programs, which is a pretty good number. Well, what if we could get to 80 because we have more volunteers there? It'd be huge, and we can actually increase our programs more.
That's amazing.
So I'm just really curious, is like you're dealing with volunteers
Yes.
and then you have staff members. Like, how is it that you interact those 2 individuals or those 2 groups of people, because personalities are so dynamic?
That's a good question. As I said, we are one team, one club, one future. With that, it means when you come in, every person who applies doesn't get hired. We're not looking for just warm bodies. We're looking for people who understand our mission and our vision and are there for the kids, but also are able to understand. So a lot of communication. And so volunteers and staff, and as we say at the club, there's no hierarchy of people here. It's just more responsibility. And so everybody has to be on that same level. You have to have decision makers. So when they come in, and so the onboarding process and the walking through, that's incredibly important. So it's like, hey, here's your role. They're complementary. How do you work together for the team? So whatever position you're playing on the field, it's incredibly important. A quarterback without a lineman to block is done. And we have to look at it from that standpoint. So what we try to highlight is, what does each person bring to the team, and bring that out openly. Okay, they're excellent at this. They're excellent at this. Let's slide them in there. But also, we're there to support each other. And there should be no one ever, whether it's on our staff or volunteer, that says these words: "It's not my job." You should never hear that at Boys and Girls Club Washington County,
Or anywhere.
I
hate those words.
it's true, and yes, it may be someone else's responsibility, but in the moment, what can I do to get it done?
Exactly.
So we talk about see a need, meet a need, and so if we're there for the kids and we're there for helping our community grow, then our perspective changes a little bit. It's not about me. Is there going to be conflict? Yeah, but we have a conflict policy that's very, very clear. You go to that person, you talk to them. If it doesn't work, go to supervisor. It doesn't work. But at the same time, usually that first conversation, if done right, squashes all that. And we have a no gossip policy. If you gossip, you'll be asked to leave. And I'm talking across the board, because it's toxic and it's not good. And it's also not good for our kids. And so we even talk to our kids about gossiping, that we're just not going to do it. It hurts.
This is great. So,
Mhm.
I mean, that's just things like not only at your club, but just for the community that can make such a world of difference.
Mhm.
And so you, did do the Boys and Girls Club, and it sounds like it's excelling, it's growing, and you have big visions for that. But did you get to a point where you're like, what's the next step for me to give back to the community?
I think the biggest way I'll give back to my community is by loving my family,
Hmm.
taking care of my family. Um, that's the most important thing. Um, the club is great, and yes, we're moving forward. We still got big challenges. And let me just hit this point. A lot of folks think that the Boys and Girls Club is funded by, Boys and Girls Club of America has been around since 1860. There's 6,000 across the states, but we're entirely funded by local money. So it's individuals and donors, and that is always the grind. So we're always like, okay, how do we get more people engaged in giving to the club because it's essential for the community? So I think also part of that is expanding how the community looks at the Boys and Girls Club and the service that we provide. And we say service because we are here to serve the families. And so I think changing that, not changing that, maybe clarifying that perception and that we're here for all kids and that we want to see them thrive. So we're here to add value into their lives. Um, you know, as far as our community, I did step into the school board this last year. It's an honor, it's a privilege to do it. Obviously it's a voluntary position, and maybe I'm a little naive when I came in because I didn't really understand it was a political position, but I guess it is. But a lot of it came down to I got kids in the school, and then we served 482 kids last year at the club.
Hmm.
So I want to make sure that their voice is heard,
Hmm.
and so I think we have a great opportunity here in Brenham to do something really special.
Right. So, I mean, you're in something involved with, the adolescents in the area, and then like you've
Mhm.
got your own kids. But I'm just curious, stepping into the school board, and you said it was like naive as far as a political position, like in a sense. But I'm curious, you ever have those moments where it's like, I want to go do this, but then you get into it and you go behind the curtain? Were you surprised by the matters that were brought up for conversation, debate, and just like once you stepped into that role?
As far as the overall matters, I
Hmm.
see it every day,
Right.
so I'm aware of that. Not all of them, but there's obviously some you're like, oh, I think it's the things that certain individuals were highly focused on. I'm like, why are we spending so much time on that when this, in my opinion, is much. And but overall, I've been pretty pleased because even the areas that have um, need to be addressed are being addressed and they're being leaned into. And we've got some great leadership. And if you go to our campuses and here in Brenham, you're going to meet excellent administration who love these kids. When I walk in and they're calling out the kids by name and they know them, and on top of that, they know their families and from top to bottom. And that is a beautiful thing. And I walk in our teachers and I see what's going on, and they're doing everything they can. I put up a post yesterday because I thought it was so cool. I'd been in a bunch of classes and I saw how, I mean, y'all have a beautiful office. How these teachers, they made this, they didn't have to do it, but they did. And they went that extra step. So I think it was, I'm really thrilled by that. But when I hear, and again, it's a minority sometimes of people who say, they make a big issue out of something like that's not an issue. Our issues are, sorry about that. Our issues are our kids, our education, taking care of our teachers, our building, making sure our facilities are there. So let's focus over there as opposed to this little thing that you think, that and it's your podium that you love to
Point.
you
Mhm.
love to jump up on it, but you want to listen to people because it matters. It's like the 12-year-old. It matters to them, and so you want to listen to it. But at the same time, how are we going to advance our community together? Because we can't do it. We talk about kicking the can down the road, right? There's no more road, so we got to pick it up and let's go. But I think what I was surprised about was the high quality. I knew we had great people. I didn't know how good they were. And when I met and listened to and learned from these folks, still am, I was incredibly impressed. And but our needs are deep, and there's a lot of families in our community that are living, even below paycheck to paycheck. And how do we come alongside them so they can break that cycle and move forward, and make sure that none of our kids are lost? Our friends' kids, our kids that may have learning disabilities or may have something, something that is keeping them from thriving in their schooling or education or life, we're not going to leave any of them behind. And so whether it's a family situation or intellectual disability, whatever it might be, every kid gets a shot. And we don't devalue that. And I love how our teachers respond to that and how our administrators are. It's very refreshing.
Well, I am excited to volunteer.
If
Yeah,
you
I'm
make the
gonna have
cut.
to.
Come
I'm
on.
gonna if I make the cut. But yeah, I'm gonna have to block my time out and.
Well, you mentioned making the cut. So we do go through the volunteers once who's there, run extensive background checks,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're on probation. So anybody who comes into the club is saddled with a person next to them who's experienced, and then they're reporting back, hey, I see this, I don't see this. And you usually know within a week of,
Mhm.
is this person going to be okay? Because again, that environment for our kids, we're not going to sacrifice that.
Right. So if you were previously background checked and everything through Brenham ISD, would that need to be done again?
Yep.
Fingerprints and the whole bit?
We don't do the fingerprinting side of
Okay.
that. We have a 4-tier, and but we don't necessarily do the fingerprinting for
Okay.
background check. But we have everything else to that.
Awesome.
Yep.
Very good.
So what are some things that you're excited about that are coming up soon?
Man, I'm excited. Honestly, I'm excited day to day just to see what's happening with our kids. I love that. I'm excited for this fall opportunities for our kids. Everything from we're offering electives from swim lessons to partner with the Brenham Children's Chorus for kids to be able to go over there, and a partnership with the Aquatic Center on babysitter training. And then also we have an artist who's going to come in and start teaching art classes for some of our older kids. Again, it's just opening up the envelope for them to see, hey, is this what I want to do? And then as we get later in the fall, October 3rd, we have our golf tournament, and it's a great day. And we have 2 major events a year that we do, and for fundraising, and a lot of it too is just to let people know who we are and what's going on. So we do that at Brennan Country Club, and so excited for that. It's always a great time, and the individuals who come out and play and just are very generous. It's a big shot in the arm for us as we go towards the end of the year. And so we're excited for that. And I'll just tell you, just in general, I'm just excited for the direction of the club, from board of directors to our staff, to our kids. They're very positive. We can do this thing. Not satisfied with just being there, but how do we go to that next level? And I think there's some really great opportunities right here in our community to do something really powerful and beautiful. And what's happening in Burton right now, just great relationships with the ISD there. And we want to see that grow immensely because it's a very rural community, and how do we provide opportunity there too?
So before we wrap things up, I would love to ask you. So you can come into an area. You can, and from you're not from here.
I'm not.
I'm not from here. She's not from here. And so you came here. You had a positive attitude, positive mindset, big aspirations, but you also need the community to back you up in some sort of capacity in order to fulfill your dreams. So I want to ask you, what are a couple things that have allowed your heart to open up so much to Brenham and stay steady and in wanting growth and impact?
It's a good question. I think no matter where we've lived, we never just want to abide. We want to be part of what's going on. When we met people in Brenham, we started to hear their heart, and we saw just the quality of people here, begin to understand stories, and they allowed us to do life with them. We're like, yeah, we want to do this here. The community doesn't have to let you in, but they did, and they allowed us to come in. And I think if you're going into community and you find a way to serve in some way, because I do believe that we're all called to a life of service on some level. Um, and it's not just giving back, it's giving who I am, right? And we're all supposed to do that. God did not give us our gifts and our skills to hoard. It's to be laid out, and not just for us to get stuff. And I think we all get the greatest joy on that. When we do something, we're part of something. But also the other part is this: it's people giving you the opportunity and leveraging themselves and their credibility to help you go forward has been really great. And also understanding. I think a lot of people, we live in a world where it makes us very cynical, especially if it's an unknown, right? And so trying to lean in to understand what people need and then build trust Trust is hard to win, very easy to lose. And so being able to be here and seeing the potential of our community is amazing. I mean, you look at where we sit on the 290 corridor and what can happen in the next 10, 15 years, it's going to be incredible. And, we see, but I want families here. I want to see families come to Brenham. And families are going to come if there's great schools, if there's stuff for the kids to do. And we have to build that. So if I get to be a small little piece of that, and that's great. And I want to be a part of that. And I want my kids to grow up in this community and love it too. And that excites me.
That's amazing. And so my cousin is a pastor. Like he started in youth, and then now he's is full blown in the ministry. And so, anyways, I had asked him not too long ago. I was like, "Do you like plan ahead, like what your sermon's going to be, or anything like that, or did you just observe what's going on in the congregation in order to know what to talk about?" And so we discussed that, and he was like, "Usually, like it's planned out, but then I observe." And then it's just like it's when you go to sermon on Sunday, like it's sometimes as if the pastor knew exactly what you were going through, and it's like, yeah, he's talking to me. Like it's so I just, not that I'm doing those things, but like you coming today, like you're talking to me. Like, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story and, the impact that you're truly doing from the such a big heart. Like that's a huge deal in today's world. So thank you.
Thanks. Well, and let me just say, none of this is possible without my wife and her support. None of it. If Whitney's not there, I'm cooked. And so, and I think that's part of it. We talk about building community. And so who you choose to spend time with the most is incredibly important. And she's the cog in that thing. And she doesn't want to be out front. She likes being behind the scenes, but she's the heart of it. And then at the club, it is our people. And them showing up every day with the passion and the heart, that's the only way it works.
Is that what fills, giving so much every day, what fills you back up?
Question.
Being with my family is big. I think the filling back up, whenever someone who you knew had it in them figures it out for themselves and they see it, whenever someone gets it, not my it, but the it that they're pursuing, and or just opening up that door. We talk about privilege a lot in life, and we all have different levels of privilege. But privilege is meant so you jam your foot in that door and bring people with you. And so when you see someone take advantage of that, there's nothing better. And when they discover how God has designed them to live in this world and start to find freedom and confidence, listen, 11-year-old girl standing confidently in front of 100 plus of her peers, that fills me up.
For sure. Love it.
Chills. Love it.
Good.
So if people want to reach out to you or just to maybe inquire about how they can participate, volunteer, or just bring their kiddos, what's the best way to find y'all?
I'll give you 3 ways. All right.
Okay.
So you look at us on social media, Boys and Girls Club of Washington County, Texas. And you can go on that's on Facebook, Instagram, BGC Brenham is where we're at. But then call us too. Call us at the club. It's 979-277-9383, 979-277-9383. Ask for me. I'll always take your call. They can get online, bgc-brenham.org. We're revamping our website, so it's pretty exciting. But I'll tell you, honestly, the best way, come by the club. Holler at me. Say, hey, Shawn, I want to come by. And you can find my email is just skoonce, Koonc, at bgc-brenham.org. I'll give you a tour, let you see what's going on, and show you why I have the best job in Washington County. And I think that's sometimes seeing it for yourself is a big deal. And if people want to volunteer, on our website, they can fill out a volunteer form. But I like them to come through first to see what they're getting into, because it can get a little wild. On the good days, it gets real wild. It's fun, and wild in the best way. But I think that's it. And I would say this, don't be afraid that you don't have something to offer, because you do. And you have something that you may not know that some kid needs and that our community needs. And maybe it's lying dormant for a while or you forgot about it, but we need it. And the heart is what counts. It's not necessarily the skill.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
for helping us with setting up the podcast today.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. This is great. This is awesome.
Yeah, this was a really great experience. Thank you for bringing joy into our day. And, we know that you're going to keep that beacon, throughout the year and while you're here. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having this platform and giving us a voice. And if anything else, our kids get to be known a little bit more for how amazing they are. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at texastrioteam.com. Take care and keep living your best life.